Hello, and welcome to Cheers. That's One Woman's Opinion. I am your host, Carolyn Mills. Today we'll be looking at season one, episode 12, The Spy Who Came in for a Cold One. This episode was directed by James Burrows. It was written by Glenn Charles, Les Charles, James Burrows, and David Lloyd. The guest cast for this episode: Ellis Rabb as Eric Finch. Rabb died in 1998 due to heart failure. Jack Knight as Jack, Kurt Woodruff as Sailor, John Ratzenberger as Cliff Clayton. In our cold opening, Norm comes in and tells the gang that Vera drove to Maine, but Norm has an interview, so he will join her tomorrow. Norm, as far as I remember, there's a chance I remembered incorrectly. Um, he never leaves the bar to go to any interview. So I don't know if he blew off the interview or is it, well, he's there the whole day, but the bar's not closed at the end, so maybe it's later that night. I'm not sure. My guess is he blew off the interview. But anyway, he has directions that Vera gave him. A sailor comes and asks, he comes from the back room, and he asks where someone can go to have a good time. I think it's interesting that he's at a bar and he's asking where to go to have a good time. So is that implying that the bar is not that great? At least to the sailor. That was an interesting question, the way he worded it. Anyway, Norm hands him directions from Vera. Sam mouths, Norman, Norman. Norm takes it back and says, I can't do that to the Navy. Where everybody knows your name plays. And I think it's interesting, and of course I can read lips, like I said, I'm deaf in this year, hard of hearing in this year. So I read lips, which is how I know that Sam says Norman because he doesn't actually say it, he literally just mouths the word. But I think it's interesting since the only person that calls Norman is usually Diane Chambers. So anyway, after the song plays, a mysterious looking man comes into the bar. Carla, Cliff, and Coach watch him. As I was reading this, I thought the creators of Cheers, I should say, be more specific. The creators, the Charles brothers and James Burrows, apparently like the letter C in their names. Cliff, Carla, Coach, and Diane's last name, Chambers. Crane. So apparently they're a big fan of the letter C. I wonder if they realized that when they made it. Carla goes over to his table, Finch's table, and Finch is looking under the table. She tells him, if you want a piece of gum, I have a fresh piece. He tells her that he's looking for bugs. And I love this because Carl actually is thinking bugs as in like the insect, not the little things that go under the table that people can hear. What your conversations are and everything. So Carla says that he sounds like he must be from England because even when he says he must be English because he says he sounds smart even when he says dumb things. I was thinking about this, and she's kind of right. English, the accent, it does sound like a very intelligent accent when you hear it. I mean, people always sound smart. So she's right about that. There's certain accents, not accidents. There are certain accents that have that certain quality. Some make you sound really smart. Some like that French accent, which we'll see obviously in later seasons with Henri. That no matter what they say, it sounds beautiful. They could tell you off and be like, oh, that's really nice if you didn't know what they were saying. There's just certain quality of certain things. So I see why she says that about the English accent. He tells her that his name is Eric Finch. He asks her if she's Neapolitan. I don't know if this is a word that's not used anymore, but I have never heard a person referred to as Neapolitan. The only time I've heard this word is in the ice cream that's chocolate strawberry vanilla. I heard chocolate vanilla strawberry. But that's the only time I've ever heard that. So I don't know if this is a word that's not used or maybe it's a Bostonian type word. I have never heard it other than here. She asks, oh, sorry, she says that her grandparents are from Naples. Finch says, give your heart away to a Neapolitan girl is like forgetting to burn your code book. Carla becomes excited as she realizes he is a spy. He tells her not to say anything or his life could be in danger. Coach walks by and Finch says he might be the secret agent of some foreign country's intelligence. Carla says she'd hate to live in that country. This is really the closest I think that Carla comes to being mean to Coach. And she's not mean to him, she just makes the comment to Finch about him. But she's not actually being directly mean to him, still not polite. But where Carla takes really no prisoners and who she insults and attacks all the time, she is very careful not to be mean to Coach. It's like the coach is like the father figure, I think, to everyone in the bar, so they really love him, even though they know who to love them. Cliff tells the others at the bar that the pig is the smartest animal. He says that if he had thumbs in a he says if they had thumbs in a language, they would be a part of the workforce. Then at the retirement party, you can eat them. And then the gang all starts discussing what they believe to be the smartest animal. Some say dogs, some other things I can't remember, but um, Coach, however, says Francis the talking mule. I had to look up who this Francis was. I did not know his name. At first, I thought he was the mule in Captain Kangaroo, which I still don't know his name. But when I looked it up, it's actually there's a series of movies. I think those in the 1950s, which makes sense for Coach. Um, and it was called Francis the Talking Mule. Cliff explains that a man does the talking for the mule. So Sam explains it's not that the mule talks, but what he says. Coach agrees and says it's far better than the things that Mr. Ed says. And for those of you who don't know Mr. Ed, he's a talking horse. He had his own show called Mr. Ed. Great show, also from the 50s. Carla tells the others that Finch is a secret agent. Carla tells him that he just got back from Ankara. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. And then Finch tells her that she is cuter than any of the Bulgarians there. Diane points out that's because Ankara is in Turkey. Carla's upset that Diane had to say anything, and Sam asks Diane why she's always correcting people. And this scene here with Diane and Sam is great. Every time Sam says something, Diane responds, and he's like, "Oh, correct it again." She's like, "No, that's not what I mean." And then he's like, "Oh yeah, made a mistake again." So really good scene between the two of them with great acting from Shelley Long and Ted Danson. Carla goes back to Finch's table and asks him why is he sitting with his back to the door if he's really a spy. And I realize here where a lot of them pretty much, I mean, they know this guy's making stuff up. Sam mentions it later. I think Carla at this point knows too, but she so desperately wants to believe that this man's a spy because it makes it interesting that her willing suspension of disbelief is out like through the roof, and she's just like, okay, whatever you say, I'm gonna go with it, and we're gonna play the game. She's willing to believe it as long as she can, even though she really does know that it's a lie, and you can tell by that line. He says that he can see the door reflected in her beautiful eyes. Probably she says, "Oh, that old line." He then tells her about an etching he paid 1,200 guilders for in Norway. Diane tells him that the currency in Norway is the krone. It's too bad that they did this episode a little later. They would have had the euro, and this poor guy would have had that off easy. Carla asks Finch if she can borrow his license to kill. Sam keeps calling, oh, Diane, over and over, but she ignores him. Finch tells Carla about bringing down the Norwegian totalitarian regime Diane points out that Norway doesn't have a totalitarian regime. Sam whistles and yells, "Hey, get over here!" Sam tells Diane that people come to the bar to shoot off their mouths, and he says that the man is not hurting anyone. Norm pulls Cliff over Finch. He's like pulling, shoving. And I thought it's interesting, like, is Norm like captivated by this man? Apparently they still believe he's a spy too at this point. Um, because Norm's not really a shy man, but he can't talk to the guy. He has to push Cliff and make Cliff talk first. So I thought that was interesting. Apparently Norm was so captivated by him or something. Cliff tells Finch that Carla blew his cover and asked him about being a spy. Finch tells them it's not like in the movies. He says they're just doing their job. Norm asks him about Russian women. Finch tells him that the cold weather makes Russian women very passionate. Norm looks at the directions he got from Vera and says, "Lake Wanamaker, here I come." Earlier when they're talking about in the cold opening when he comes in and they're talking about it, he explains that where they're going is very cold, so that explains this Wanamaker line. If you're not familiar with this episode. Finch tells his most exciting mission was in 1973 in Romania. He says the Romanians used the twister on him. Norm asks, "What's the twister?" And Diane tells him that it's a ride at Coney Island. Carla gets angry and tells Diane to shut up. And here you see Carla's still struggling because she does not want to give up on the lie. And the next thing she says is for Finch to tell Diane that he was not lying. However, he tells Carla that Diane is correct and he has been lying. Norm asks Finch, "Cold weather doesn't make women passionate?" Finch shrugs, and Norm rips up the directions as he explains how severe in the spring. Carla asks Finch why he lied. He explained his life is rather dull, and sometimes he goes to the bar to try to make people believe he is interesting. Which here you see how smart Sam is, as dumb as Sam is known to be. And he's not life smarts. He gets it. The guy's lying. He understands that. And he says it's okay. That's why people come in the bar. They're going to tell their stories and make themselves look good, makes them feel good. Just Finch should just reiterate here. However, he tells Diane that she is too smart for him. And this line, and then when he comes back later, which I'm going to get to, makes me think after Diane figures it out, Finch has now come back because he says, "I'm going to get her. I've got to figure out a story based on what I know about her. I'm going to try to figure out something that's going to make her believe the lies that I tell." I think that's why he came back. Sorry, I lost my place. Oh. So after he leaves, Diane tells the others that she could not feel any worse. Finch then returns and gives her a tip. Diane tells him, "Wrong again." Diane says she quits because she doesn't belong there, and Carla says that nobody's going to argue with her. Coach tells her that she booted a grounder. She looks at Sam, unable to speak baseballese, and he nods, and then she nods to Coach. And Coach tells her, "You know what I used to tell one of my players when they made a mental error? Nothing. That's why I got fired." So now we know how Coach ended up leaving baseball. It wasn't retirement, he was apparently actually fired. And that's how Coach drank himself out. So now we know both of them in their baseball career. Sam tells her to go find him and apologize. Carla tells him that the man's name is Eric Finch. Diane says she will go find him and look everywhere until she does. And then she walks right past him as he is entering while she is leaving. And I love this because she's so determined to go and find him, and then she goes right past him. Classic TV trope right there. He tells him that he came back to explain himself. He told him that it's no big deal. He says that he has an overactive imagination and explains he is a writer, a poet mostly. Diane is excited and wants to hear some of his poetry. She tells him that she majored in poetry. The gang then discusses her different majors. At one point, they reach, not in this episode, but in a different episode, they say that Diane had 87 majors. So some of the ones they mention here are poetry, modern art, I think philosophy or psychology, might have been both. Um, it's crazy as nothing else. Finch recites a poem for Diane, and she loves it. Then she wants to hear another, but Sam tells him not so soon. We need to rub down our goosebumps. Diane tells Finch that she is on speaking terms with the poetry editor of Atlantic Monthly. Sam tells her that she's getting carried away. But, as usual, Diane ignores Sam. She calls the editor and has Finch recite his best poem. As he's reciting the poem, Coach comes from the back and recites along with Finch. Carla told, Coach tells Carla that the nuns taught them the poem when he was in school. And Carla says that you can't believe anything that Finch says and compares him to her ex-husband. I love that we keep, every so often she talks about her ex-husband, makes references to him. And of course, the one about how he looks makes Gina laugh. I'm so sorry. So I have to explain this. I have insomnia and I have chronic fatigue disorder. I also have so I'm tired all the time. I have trouble sleeping. Plus I have asthma. Between the tiredness and the oxygen issues, that's why I yawn so much. But I apologize. It's not something I can help. It just happens when it happens. But I want to explain it. Oh, so I was saying about her ex-husband. We've heard about him every so often, and I'm looking forward to when we actually get to finally see Dan Hedia play Nick Tortelli. I think we have at least one more season, possibly two. I don't remember, but we got a little ways. I'm looking forward to see it. Sam thinks Sam thanks Finch for coming and entertaining them. Finch says that his real name is Thomas Hillard III. He wants to buy cheers from Sam. Sam says Finch must be an eccentric millionaire, and Norm says, "Oh, like Howard Hughes." Finch says that Hughes died while still owing the money. He doesn't want to hear his name. Howard Hughes died in '76, I believe, by the 78. So Finch asks Sam how much he wants for the bar. Sam tells him. He looks around and says, "We got the glasses, and $2 million is good." Finch writes a check, but Diane rips it up, calling Finch a sick, pathological liar. Finch's chauffeur comes in and tells Mr. Hillard he is there with the car. The barflies look stunned. Then they all run to the floor where the work truck that Diane put up is, and they try to put it back together. I know at one point Carla grabs a piece and she says, "I have the date." Um, Another joke right there. You see that every so often something, a letter, check, whatever have you, gets ripped up. They suddenly realize, oh wait, that's real. They're trying to piece it together. You're supposed to never can. Well, not well enough. Diane is upset because she has been wrong the entire time. She says that she will never believe anyone again. Sam tells her, "I think I'm falling in love with you." She responds, "Really?" And that's the end of the episode. Once again, Sam got Diane. Always love that. So I gave this episode 3 out of 5 beer nuts. It wasn't bad, but it's not a favorite. And it felt kind of repetitive. He tells a lie, it's been recovered. He tells a lie, it's been. Then, of course, at the end, there's that surprise where this one's not a lie. Well, that part was good. And I said, overall, it wasn't bad. The acting was good, but definitely not a favorite. I gave MVP for this episode to Ted Danson. I love the way he tells Diane how the whole time he's just like, okay, it's okay. People lie in bars. This is what they do. We tell stories, make it up. It's cool. And then when Diane goes the opposite way, which is so determined to believe the man, he's like, you know what? Maybe this is not a good idea. He's constantly like on Diane with that. And then at the end, he gets her because he realizes she still hasn't changed. She's been a believer. She wants, doesn't believe. So he gets her. Um, Excellent acting by Ted Danson. I also love that whole scene when he's calling, oh Diane," then he screams, "Get over here!" It's very classic. My favorite line, Diane says, "I was raised to prize truth above all else." Carla replies, "This from a woman wearing rubber eyelashes and padded bra." My runner-up favorite line is a Normism. Norm comes in, Sam says, "What's new, Norm?" Sam says, "Half my wife." I don't know about that line. It makes me laugh. Because in my mind, I'm picturing like, people getting knee replacements and hip replacements and all that. But I'm not that old, so I don't think she's had all that done. So I don't know what is that. I love that line. Here's a little known fact. This episode is the only episode that's shown in real time, meaning there was no lapses between the commercial breaks. It all takes place. It's also the shortest episode and shortest site. It starts to start to finish. There's no, okay, 3 days later and like that. It's right in that time frame. So. My question of the week for y'all. If you could please either email me or respond in comments or on the Facebook page and Instagram page. What is the biggest tall tale you have ever told about yourself to impress someone? If you like this episode, I ask that you please comment, subscribe, like on wherever you're listening from. You can also follow us. You can also join the Facebook group here. Cheers, that's One Woman's Opinion. You can follow us on Instagram at Cheers One Woman Opinion Podcast. And always you can email us with questions, comments, etc. at Cheers One Woman Podcast at gmail.com. The next episode, Cheers, Season 1, Episode 13, Now Pitching Sam Alone. And this episode is also going to be the first time we hear what is that called? Introduction where they say Cheers is filmed in front of a live studio audience. And that's One Woman's Opinion.